How may the corporation serve you?
Civilization 5 is the story of humankind going from the Stone Age to the Space Age. And this game, Beyond Earth, is the next chapter of that. So we start the game when humans are leaving during what's called the seeding. And this is when all the nations of the world are sending out colony ships to all the planets they can find, because Earth isn't doing so well. And you pick the game up when you land on the planet for the first time, and you progress as a human civilization to the next major epoch in our evolution as a species. So the game tells a fundamentally similar story to Core Civ, which is we have a new home, we push back the darkness, we evolve as a species and as a culture, and then transcend, where we started. So in that sense, it's the same, but it's our take on civilization in space.
We definitely are fans of science as much as we are of science fiction, and the web is a great balance of both. So when you start the game, you start with technologies that many people would find recognizable, that are probably realistic expectations of what you would need or what you would want when you land on a new planet. But as you move out, you start to get into the more fantastical, like small step by small step. So it's not all at once, and the further you go, the more wild and imaginary it becomes. But along the way, we want to make sure that it always feels like a plausible, believable progression. So that when you get to the end of the game and you have this collection of, frankly, pretty imaginary, ridiculous science fiction, futuristic technologies, it's still a believable story. Like, you can still look back and see how you got there, and it all makes sense to you. But you'll have the opportunity to play with both in equal measure and enjoy the game as a fan of real science and of science fiction.
Sure. So the affinity system is something really core to this product. It's our take on these post-humanist ideas, three of them. There's harmony, purity, and supremacy. The harmony player is going to try to become indigenous to the planet, and that doesn't mean they turn into Na'vi or space elves or anything. I mean, you could be the Predator too if you wanted, but it's becoming indigenous, an indigenous life form. They get there through gene splicing and sort of manipulating directly the morphology of the human species. There's the supremacy affinity, which says we want to be planet agnostic as a species, and we can do that because we can build the tools, right? We're tool makers. We will become independent of our planet by augmenting ourselves with technology. So they're the ones that are going to transform their bodies and augment their bodies with tech. And then there's purity, which is a really interesting affinity in that they reject both of those options. They say to be human is to retain our culture and to retain our morphology, and they do so almost to a fanatical degree, the way that they venerate old Earth. So their whole shtick is to transform our planet, or this new planet, into a new Earth, and ultimately to bring settlers from old Earth to the new world. And each of those affinities has its own victory condition. So the purity player will try to bring civilian or settlers from Earth to the new world. The supremacy player will reestablish communication with Earth and send a military back to emancipate them. And then the harmony player, as in an homage to Alpha Centauri, will actually discover that the planet itself is sentient and build these giant biomechanical machines to communicate with it and transcend the way that we think about the planet and how we interact with it. So they're very unique, and your investment in each of these three tracks over the course of the game is going to color everything about your civilization. So the way your leaders look, the way your military looks, and how it progresses, how it upgrades, the unique units that you're able to build, and how you take advantage of the world around you.
So, without the historical context, this game doesn't have a story that players already know. It was important to us both that we could sort of tell them the story of what would happen in the future, but make sure that it was their own story, that they could tell it themselves. And the quest system was the ideal way to do that. So both large and small, quick and lengthy, there's a variety of quests that occur over the course of the game that let players kind of dive into parts of the lore of the planet, the world that they're on, the people that were there before them, what happened on old Earth, all of these different threads that sort of add up to the tale of the next chapter of humankind. And based on the quests that they embrace and the ones that they pursue, that story is sort of assembled out of these pieces into their particular version. And when they play the game again, it's going to be a different accumulation. So the quest system is adaptive. It responds to the activities that you're doing and lets you have opportunities to explore them further, deepen them, or apply them sort of in cross relationships to other systems. It also will offer you sort of inroads into systems that you're not using as much, so it's a way to teach the game and get players to more invest deeply in the nuances and complexity of the game, and to get them to mix it up with their neighbors and with the planet, and to sort of take a stand about who they are and who they think humanity is and should be in the future as they're discovering it for themselves.
That's right. In Civilization 5, the barbarians in that game are kind of an early game speed bump before you start to wage war with your AI counterparts or human counterparts. In Beyond Earth, however, the aliens are an integral part of the game the entire way through. And there's this neat moment in the game where they transition from becoming a nuisance or an all-out threat to an instrument to wage war in a different way against your opponents. You know, you could rile up that alien nest that's next to a guy you don't get along with. That doesn't declare war against him, but he may respond diplomatically for you doing that. But it's an interesting dynamic. And as you interact with the aliens, as you antagonize them, they begin to field more complicated, sophisticated tactical operations against you. And they're definitely a living, breathing part of the world. They've been there a lot longer than you have, and they're dangerous. And as you found in your playthrough, they can, if left alone, really damage you. But there are some different ways of handling them rather than just shooting them. You can leave them alone, and they won't be as aggressive toward you. You can also build satellites that will repel them or buildings that will repel them. And eventually you can domesticate them. So if you invest in the Harmony affinities, the Harmony technologies, you can, ride them literally, or you can take control of a siege worm, or even build your very own custom alien units very late in the game. So there's a lot that they're involved in, much more so than just simple barbarians.
Well, one feature that we like to point out that we are really excited about is the orbital layer, which you saw a little bit of in the demo, but the ability to put units into space and have them affect what's going on the ground. And Civ has always been a game about the world, the map, and it's still going to be the star of this game. Your cities, your units, your territory, that's your power. But the orbital layer is sort of like another space on top of it where you can mix it up. You can have this alternative territory in the skies above you that is really integral to the success of your efforts down below. And, everything from improving your domestic lands to how well your cities work, to buffing your military units or setting up invasions, to spying or interacting with the aliens. Having units in space as well as on the ground will be really important to that. So it's really an interesting alternative problem to solve, and it's relevant throughout the whole game to play with the orbital layer and fit it into your playstyle, whatever that may be.
Sid Meier's Civilization Beyond Earth comes out fall 2014 for PC, Mac, and Linux.